So if you've ever found yourself standing in front of the pantry or an open refrigerator when you're feeling sad or stressed out or anxious, bored, upset, you are emotionally eating. And emotional eating isn't just to soothe negative emotions either. You could be eating to celebrate all the things that we always want to be celebrating. Like, what's the first thing we do when we get a job promotion, right? We go home, tell everybody the good news, and celebrate. Let's go out to eat. Or you're eating at the baby showers, or you're eating at all the excuses we have to get together, right? Parties, all the things. So emotional eating isn't just for negative things, but we are going to be focusing on those negative emotions being the driving factor for the reasons why we emotionally eat. And then I'm going to share with you some ways that you can recognize if this is even you or not. Sometimes we don't even know we're battling with emotional eating. So by the time we get to the end of today, you're going to have enough information to decide if this is you. And if you want to be armed with some ways that you can stop it from sabotaging your weight loss efforts, I'm hosting a live webinar this Thursday where I'll be teaching you how to overcome emotional eating God's way. You're going to walk away with a proven method for breaking the cycle of emotional eating and a mindset shift that's going to help you conquer emotional eating for good, because honestly, the only way to truly change and stop doing one thing and start doing another is by renewing our minds, according to Romans 12:2. So register for this week's webinar by clicking the link in the description below. So according to Wikipedia, emotional eating is defined as eating in response to positive and negative emotions. While that term often refers to eating as a means of coping with negative emotions, it also includes eating for positive emotions, such as eating foods when we're celebrating an event or eating to enhance an already good mood. And in the positive situations, emotions are still driving the eating, but just not in a negative way. So that was Wikipedia, but again, that's why I want to share this with you. I want to talk with you about what emotional eating is, because I've learned a ton about it in my own personal life. You know, for a really long time, I had no clue that I was even an emotional eater. I didn't know that that was something I dealt with in my life. And it wasn't really until a few years ago that I actually had my eyes open to it. And then even more recently, I started to see the effects of that continuing in my life and just really having to get healed from all of that in so many different ways. So just an example, when my dad passed away, I kind of reverted or kind of went back to this primal instinct, so to speak, inside of me that's been so deeply ingrained to eat when I feel like I have nothing else to grasp for. When he passed away, I was in a really bad place, as you could probably imagine. I had a lot of grief and sorrow and pain and all the things. I was just battling a really negative and terrible pain and grief and emotions. And the first thing I did was go talk to my doctor. And my doctor put me on a medicine. And I'm not recommending an anti-anxiety medicine by any means. This is not what I'm saying. I'm also not telling you don't be on something like that. I'm just telling you that this is my story. This is what happened to me, okay? And this is also not medical advice by any means. But the reason that I went to my doctor, though, and talked to him about all of this stuff, about all the anxiety that I was battling, was because I couldn't even really breathe. I felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest, and I was just struggling, and I thought something maybe deeper might be going on. And so he ended up putting me on this anti-anxiety medicine that was not habit forming. And I was really apprehensive about doing that, but I felt like I really didn't have anything else to lose. And I was already like feeling like I can't breathe, I can't sleep. I was like just totally a zombie walking around, you know. I'm not there for my kids. I really don't know what to do. And he gave me this medicine, so I started taking it. And within the first 48 hours of being on this medicine, I felt like a hole had opened up in my stomach, like a black hole. And I just felt like I could never fill it. Like I was eating constantly. I was eating, but I was doing this because one of the side effects of the medicine, and I didn't realize this at the time, was to be hungry. It caused weight gain because it kind of kept you hungry all the time. Well, I didn't know that, or I would have never taken it too. But I was only on this medicine for like 3 weeks. And in that 3 weeks, I never felt like I could get full. I was hungry constantly. So I went back to the doctor. I said, you got to take me off this medicine because there's no way I can keep doing this. I'd gained an excessive amount of weight in those 3 weeks. So he took me off. He said, stop taking it. And of course, my doctor didn't recommend this, but I researched for myself and found a natural remedy for reducing anxiety. So I started taking a supplement called ashwagandha to help me with the anxiety and the things that I was battling as my grief was being processed. And I would highly recommend ashwagandha. I would say it's helpful for anyone who's struggles with an imbalance or high levels of cortisol, stress, anxiety issues, things like that. So ashwagandha has been an amazing help for me. It's just a natural herbal supplement that you can get on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below for you. I use the Goli brand, and sometimes I do use a different brand, but I just really can't think of the name of it right now. But it's really helpful, and it's all natural, so it's been great. And it doesn't make me want to eat everything in the entire world, right? So I told you all that to tell you this. During that time while I was grieving in those first few months, I was grasping for anything I could do to soothe the emotions that I was feeling without really running to God. I wasn't really wanting to go there because, to be honest, I was a little angry at him because my dad just passed away of the same cancer that my mother passed away from, a few years ago. And I was really struggling, really struggling, and emotions were all over the board. So I didn't have anything else. I didn't watch TV a lot. I didn't have shows that I could just sit in front of and veg out and forget about the world. I don't read books, a lot of books that aren't just for self-help and helping me to be better. And honestly, I didn't want to deal with my feelings at the time. So getting better wasn't really something that I cared to do either. My headspace was more in a survival mode, and that was it. And so I have no addictions. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't know what to do. So I was really struggling. And the first thing I thought was, well, I'm going to go eat. And I'm going to eat until, I can't feel my face anymore, I guess. So that's what I was feeling, to be honest. And that emotional, instability that I was facing caused me to turn to food. And I turned to food constantly. And I felt like that was the only way that I could keep myself sane in those first few weeks that I was really struggling just to even trying to stay afloat. I felt like, at least in life. So I was dealing with that and realizing that, okay, emotional eating is so real. It is a real thing. It's something that people battle with. And in the midst of it, it's really difficult to deal with it if you don't know that that's what's going on. And thankfully, I realized that's what was going on, but I wasn't really quite sure how to handle that amount of grief that I was experiencing. And so I just did what I knew to do. I ate. But I did come out of it. I stopped doing it because at least I was aware of it, and I was going, okay, I'm not going to go make the decision to eat when I feel angry or sad or overwhelmed. Instead, I'm going to go for a walk. So just trying to find a better way to deal with those feelings that were driving me to eat, for me, helped a ton. And I'm going to talk about how to overcome emotional eating and some tangible ways that you can deal with it when you're triggered in the webinar on Thursday that you don't want to miss. So make sure you register for that. But what does emotional eating look like, and how do you know if you're eating because you're hungry or because you're stressed out or emotional? So I just kind of shared what emotional eating looks like, at least an example from my own personal life. And of course, we have to eat to live. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be eating food and going to the parties and eating all the things. We do need to eat to live. But I used to live to eat. So eating wasn't just based on being hungry or my hunger cues, because when you're emotionally eating, you're not eating because you're hungry. You're eating because you're trying to fill a void, right? And we're going to dive into that concept deeper on Thursday's webinar too. But I didn't even know that I had hunger cues, really. I didn't know what those felt like for the most part because I never paid attention to them growing up. I just ate. I had dealt with emotional eating, and I didn't realize this though, from the time I was a really little girl. But I just wanted you to see emotional eating for what it is. And I really dive into the why of it all and learning to reprogram our brains to think about food differently in my Biblical Body Plan signature course. So I want to just talk to you about physical hunger versus emotional hunger. There's some different ways that we experience these types of hungers. And if you're like, I don't really know if I'm an emotional eater or not, listen to this. If you're physically hungry, you're going to know it because it's going to develop slowly over time, whereas emotional eating or emotional hunger comes on suddenly, like boom, I have to eat right now. No matter what, I have to eat right now. Okay. That's emotional eating. So when physical hunger comes on, you desire a variety of food groups, and you're okay with eating some salads and some things like that. But with emotional hunger, you crave only those certain types of foods because our body's reacting to the stress, the emotional stress that we're feeling, and our cortisol levels are high, and we're trying to fill what we think our body's feeling, like we might have to flee from something. So cortisol is a stress hormone, and when it's high, it's designed to prompt you to fuel up. It triggers your fight or flight response. So when it's high, it tells your brain, gosh, I better hurry up and eat because I'm getting ready to have to run from something, so eat all the things. So you have all the energy to run. that's what we do. But instead, we're not running, we're sitting on the couch watching Netflix. So when you have physical hunger though, you feel that sensation of fullness and you take that as your cue to stop eating. Like, I'm good, I don't need anymore. But when you're emotionally hungry, you binge on food and you don't even feel that sensation of fullness. And that was 100% my life. And when you're physically hungry, you don't have those negative feelings that you're eating about. You're just eating because you have to eat. You have to live, right? You have to fuel your body. That's eating because you need to, because God created us to eat. But when you're emotionally eating, you kind of feel guilty and you feel ashamed about what you're eating, like pretty much the whole time. And you may not even notice it. You may not recognize it. But just take a few seconds the next time you're like, I've just had a really rough day. I'm going to go reward myself with this, tub of ice cream after I've eaten fried chicken and French fries on the way home. Yeah, probably emotionally eating to try and calm down and soothe yourself from your crazy day. And there are other healthier ways to do that, okay? But after hearing just these things today, if you've decided emotional eating is definitely something you're battling with, I can't wait to see you on Thursday's webinar for ways to overcome emotional eating God's way. Get registered today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.